great unfathomable questions of the universe. Yet I rejected it. I wanted something more communicative, more useful to fellow man, to my social world, to others. I felt this wasn't love. This was bliss. In the delusion somehow I knew it was an attractive delusion. So I began to think not of meditation and contemplation, a mystical way, where in the writings of Teresa and St. John of the Cross and others, I rather enjoyed the intellectual satisfaction of reading Teresa of Avila and St. John of the Cross, The Ladder of Perfection by Roger Hilton, Marcus Aurelius. This was a broad cultural contact with many previous intellects. And they spoke to me of my longings and yearnings to encompass a broader cultural field, to attach myself or be attached to a broader project for my art than I was otherwise engaged with. Barnett Newman and Pierre de Mondrian were artists who were involved in a bigger project than just the surface of an abstract design. But when it was suggested to me to actually engage myself in meditative practice alone, privately, that was where I only ever practiced, not with a group in a group context. That is where things began to happen. You know, the regular pattern on the carpet became rather familiar to me, and I would spend hours there, and of course with optical fatigue, you would begin to see a sort of shimmering pattern in the carpet. Not a hallucination, not a delusion, but sort of a buzzy jig-jag thing would happen after a time, and you would think, oh, this is interesting, to use one's faculties, to using one's faculties to examine personally oneself minute physiological responses. However, there's no way one could imagine these purely physical phenomena could lead to understanding or insight. So I began to form the notion of not just meditation or contemplation, but something more active, and gradually drew myself into prayer or waiting on a distinct other, with this other communicating. And of course in the mystical literature, while mystical literature as a whole is all about God this and God that, the particular God is never specified. It's always God. It's not Jesus Christ or Jehovah or the Holy Spirit. These differentiations, the triunity of God, is not in any way explored by much of mystical literature. It sort of keeps the God notion abstract. It's a mental construct, and it's the contemplation within the mind, not the spirit, Occasionally the Spirit spills forth, and these are the transports and ecstasies that are depicted in that statue, say, of Teresa, that Renaissance statue of Teresa being, penetrated by the beams of radiating, luminescent insight from above. But the specific nature of the communication, it's all rather general, ladders and stairways and enveloping my soul's kind of thinking. Even the confusion between soul and spirit, mind and spirit of the age is a little too queasy intellectually or spiritually or even bodily for myself. I want that clear definition of body, mind and spirit. And when you have the trichotomy right, you have a tripartite God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. You have a tripartite heaven, the first heaven, where we dwell now, the earth. The second heaven, and the intersection between the first heaven and the second heaven, it was where Adam and Eve dwelt, in a place of semi-glory, almost on the foothills of the second heaven, or the topmost level of the first heaven, this earth. They were somewhat more glorified persons than ourselves. They were bigger, they were mature, they didn't have a growing up stage, they were mature. Not that their children, had they had them in paradise, would have been born mature. I can't imagine that. And Paul the Apostle speaks of being in vision in the third heaven, where glory is, where God is, and where the wicked angels have been cast out, where they inhabit now the second heaven. They only influence this earth. They're not allowed by God. They're held back to influence this heaven. However, that's to jump ahead somewhat in understanding. Back here now, being an atheist, and finally praying. And I said to myself, because I think there was a Bible in the house, but I said to myself, if I pray and God is real, I want to know God like Moses knew God. I want to know God naked. I want to know God with no resources, with no education. Now, in my Catholic upbringing, they did have occasional readings in the church. But as we now know, the Catholic religion is all about itself. It's not really about the Bible. And for many centuries kept the Bible from the people. And I was definitely of the people in this regard. I was not from a priestly family in Catholicism, or from a family of nuns or anything like that. There was nothing religious particularly about our family. However, neither my father nor my mother swore, and I thank God for that, because I find it difficult now, or even during those years of atheism, to